Hey guys, Trace here, and today in the garden we're going to be talking about tomatoes. I'm going to be finishing up the trellises, installing the strings, and also showing you how I do my other tomatoes. So there's two basic types of tomatoes. There's Indeterminate, which will keep on growing indefinitely as long as you take care of them. And those are the ones that I train vertical up the strings. And then there's Determinate tomatoes, which only grow to a certain height, and they usually kind of come ripe close to the same time, and it's just one big harvest rather than an extended harvest. And I trellis them or train them both in different ways, and I'll show you both ways I do that today. First, we have the Indeterminate tomatoes, which I just take some of these wire staples or just straight wires, whatever I want really, and just anchor them in the ground at the base of the plant. And those twines I cut the other day are tied to that, and I take that and tie it up to the wooden trellis I made above it all, and that way this is supported. And I'll go back in later and show you guys how I add clips and also how we prune this variety of tomato for better production. Okay, so hopefully you can see this, but on these Indeterminate tomatoes, you've got the stem running up the middle, and then you have the leaf, which just looks like a leaf, but then between the leaf and the stem, you have these little group of leaves shooting out, and you have to pluck those off. If you leave them, it winds up growing into a whole new plant essentially, and it'll keep on bushing out and getting bushier and bushier. And what winds up happening is you have enormous tomato plants that don't produce any fruit. But if you train them just like this on a single stem, you wind up getting a lot more fruit production out of just the single stem than you would out of a dozen stems on a single plant. For my tomato clips, I like to use clips. They're just like this. They come in a big old bag of like 1,000 or something. They're called tomato clips, and you just come in like that and click it around the tomato, so the tomato stem will go through this center hole. And if you look real close, hopefully you can see it. It's got these little nubs, and the string goes right in the hinge there, and as you close it, it captures the string and pinches it. That way the clip won't slide up and down the string, and it'll keep your tomatoes from flopping around and these from sliding and damaging the stem. And out here I have to clip them pretty regularly because we get really bad wind most of the year. And right now they're about 8 inches tall, and if I don't clip them, the next strong wind we have is going to just lay those plants over and break them off, and I'll lose my crop for the year. So we will get them clipped. Clips, eventually you'll have flowers and blooms and stuff, and you don't want to clip right next to a bloom, because if it does blow a little bit and rock them, sometimes it'll kill your blooms. But I try to come in, capture the string, and then I go just underneath the leaf on the hardier part of the stem, because if you clip it real high, that'll also cause the top to break out and mess everything up. If you do lose a top, you can leave one of those side stems and grow a new shoot, which will salvage that plant. But if you don't have a side shoot, if you've already suckered and then you break a top out, you're kind of out of luck on that plant. It's probably not going to produce anything. There's a look at my indeterminate tomatoes. I go through and I sucker them and clip them usually at the same time. This time there's not very many suckers yet. They're still really small plants, but the more they grow, it's exponential. They grow a lot faster the bigger they get and get established, at least in the spring when it's raining on them a lot. And then I also clip them when they're young and growing real fast like that. I clip them about every 6 inches or so. And the older they get a little bit hardier stem to them. It doesn't break near as easy, so I'll go probably 12 inches between clippings at that point, just so I don't have to clip them as frequently, and I don't have trouble with them breaking off once they get a little bit taller. And I think it also helps they're in that string and it can sway a little bit and kind of absorb the bend of the wind. And that's the indeterminates. And now we will go take a look at how I do my determinate varieties of tomatoes. So I've got a pretty big variety of indeterminate tomatoes, so I'm not going to go through all of them, but my determinate tomatoes this year are just celebrities, and I grow them every year. They kind of come in a glut, and I wind up making a lot of sauce out of them. It's real handy just to have a big bunch ripening all at once for canning purposes. And with these guys, I do not put a trellis, but usually I use bamboo, but this year I cut some stakes because my bamboo is getting a little bit old and brittle. And I take these stakes and I'll put my first stake, skip 2 plants, put another stake, skip 2 plants, put another stake all the way to the end. And when I'm done with that, I come back through with that same tomato twine, but I don't cut it into lengths, and I weave it around the plants, and I'll show you that process a little later. Scatterbrained today, so bear with me. I won't try to hopefully touch up on anything I missed. So all those wooden stakes, I found them. Use a rubber mallet, just that way they don't break out on the ends and split off and ruin your stake. And the determinate varieties of tomatoes, you don't touch them really. You let them bush out. You don't cut the suckers or prune them in any way. You just let them grow however much they're willing to grow. But you do use these trellises to support them. And I take this same tomato twine, it comes in a big old box like that, and then I run it through just a chunk of pipe. That way I don't have to bend over the whole time, especially when they're real low. Once they get a little taller, you can get away without the pipe, but this first round I usually use the pipe. And while they're a little short right now, I really probably don't need to put a string on them, but I'd rather be safe than sorry, and we've got some wind coming up. So to do this, you tie them off on the first stake, about the height you want them. I'm going to be about 3 inches off the ground. Then you alternate. So you go around, we'll just say outside, inside. Go outside of the first plant and just tuck it up against the stem so it's holding the stem real nice and easy. And then inside the second plant, same thing, just tuck it up against that stem where you like it. Then outside of your post. And you keep doing that the whole way up and down the row. And when you come back, you'll be on the opposite side. That way, that plant, so on the way back, we'll go outside of that plant, inside of this plant, and that plant is sandwiched between those two strings, and it can't really flop around too much. That's a little bit closer look at how I do my tomatoes, my indeterminates versus my determinates. And like I said, I'm kind of scatterbrained today, so if you have any questions about any of the stuff I just kind of went over, this is just how I do it. There's a few different ways to do it, but they're all basically the same. But if you got any questions, just ask me. And I've been looking at, I got a lot of those seeds that I planted the other day have started coming up, but you can't really see much right now. So maybe in a week or two, I'll probably do a garden tour and update on everything we've planted so far and just kind of show how it's coming along. And that's going to be it for this video, I think. And just please like, share, and subscribe, and it'll help me grow this channel. And thanks for watching.